exchange for silver. It's a semi-legal trade.
Despite the in Canton, in fact, permitted the trade to continue so long as dues continued to be paid, although in the eyes of the emperor these dues were illegal dues.
Things change in 1839 when the emperor attempts to shut down the opium trade. The British are taken hostage in Canton. 20,000 chests of opium are handed over and destroyed. These scenes from a new Beijing-backed film, The Opium War, show what happened next. The Royal Navy comes to the rescue. The Chinese fleet is badly damaged. In the melee, naval captain Charles Elliot seizes Hong Kong or Pirate Island for Britain, though many historians say claims Britain was merely expanding its empire do not wash.
If the British had gone to China primarily for territorial expansion, why would they want to find some place that was so remote from the capital, Beijing? A place which was still in those days a bit, shall one say, the old cliche, a barren island with hardly a house on it. You don't take something like that for territorial expansion.
But to many Chinese scholars, the war was a clear case of empire building.
你为了说是我这个地方发展，我要不断地占中国的领土，这是没有任何道理可讲的。当然，在那一个世纪，也是没有道理可讲，是一个强权政治。
The Treaty of Nanking in 1842 ceds Hong Kong Island to Britain in perpetuity. Crucially, it gives them a deep-water harbour in South China in which to trade freely, and a resolution to the years of feuding. The British get a taste for fighting. Their gunboats, blooded in European wars, are no match for Chinese junks. A second war, the Arrow War, leads to a second treaty in 1861, forcing China to give up Kowloon. At the end of the century, hungry for more land for its expanding colony, Britain gets the new territories on a 99-year lease.
Yeah. Well, this was, of course...
Hong Kong may have changed beyond recognition, but the Opium War remains in its street names, names such as Pill Street.
It was named after the British Prime Minister, Sir Robert Peel, and, you know, the British Bobby is named after him, or Peelers, as they were called. He invented the police force, but he also founded the Conservative Party, and he was anti-opium wars.
A walk around mid-levels with historian Arthur Hacker evokes names and moments from what's seen as a darker period in English history, though the ghosts of the past bring to mind the fact that not everyone in England supported the opium trade.
There was an enormous anti-opium lobby, you know, clergymen, humanitarians and everything else.
The tour is also a lesson that history is what you make of it.
I mean, it was a whole lot of Scottish adventurers and a prime minister who had a wife who was a sort of nymphomaniac called Lady Caroline Lamb, who was rather too friendly with Byron, and Palmerston, who was the foreign secretary, who was regarded in Britain as really a pretty awful foreign secretary. And I mean, I wouldn't have voted for him. I wouldn't vote for a man who wears makeup.
For the Chinese, it's no laughing matter. Hong Kong's capture led to the collapse of the Qing dynasty and to a carve-up of China by foreign powers.
这个鸦片战争啊，在中国，我们像我们这老一代的人啊，包括我们上一代人，这印象深极了。 这是帝国主义打进中国的第一炮。从那以后，逐渐的，那么中国就沦为一个殖民地半殖民地的地位了，半殖民地半封建的地位了。
The Opium War movie, with its cast of thousands, was produced to coincide with the handover. This costly historical epic is a powerful statement about the evils of Western imperialism. The humiliation finally ends when the territory is handed back to China. not as a barren rock, but as a glittering jewel.
10,000 guests have been invited to the official British farewell ceremony at East Timor, which is about to begin. There'll be just over an hour of dances, music, parades and speeches befitting this symbolic ritual to mark what many believe is an honourable withdrawal from Britain after 156 years of colonial rule. And before we go to East Timor for the festivities, we'll go to this commercial break.
Your mission objective, to take them out. Their mission objective, to survive. Mission Colonial, Friday.
必須要習慣，再難習慣，還是要奮勇的支撐，讓我支撐這一晚，但退痛苦的循環。
Relief of pain and fever miseries. Fortalin, of course.
Why is everybody rushing to make Chinese clothes?
Let's all support Dress Chinese Day.
Why is everybody rushing to make Chinese clothes?
Let's all support Dress Chinese Day.
Terror strikes in Never Never Land.
Welcome back. The official British farewell ceremony is about to begin, and Derek Johnson is standing by live at Timor. Derek?
I was hoping to say that the nostalgia begins here, but there's only one thing that's been on everybody's mind all afternoon. Guess what? That's the weather. It's been raining fairly consistently, but we don't think that actually it's going to affect the programme at all. It's not started. What you can hear behind me is a warm-up. That's the massed ranks of the Royal Hong Kong Police Force. They're going out and doing a bit of a tune-up, a bit of a walk-around. I hope you can see them now. They're supposed to be playing until about 10 minutes before the thing starts itself. Just to remind you, we are by the East Timor waterfront. This is a specially constructed venue housing 10,000 people. It's the scene of Britain's farewell parade. I think we're now focusing in on the royal enclosure. Prince Charles, the Governor, the British Prime Minister Tony Blair and the Foreign Secretary will be among the guests here later. The show itself is due to start precisely at 6:13 and go on until about 7:30. It's a joint military and civilian affair. We're just panning here over the parade ground. This is where the military part of the show will take place later. As you can see, look, 10,000 people invited here, and I think most of them have come out. Every one of them was given an umbrella. I think also it's a sign of how much everyone really wants this show to go ahead, that they've all turned out and are waiting for the thing itself to begin. Now, I don't know if we can actually show you this, but over here is the stage. This is where it should all be going on a bit later. You might be able to see there are orchestras out undercover already. Now, we think that's a very good sign. At least we're going to get some kind of musical show, if not the rest of the programme. What you can't see behind that is the Royal Yacht Britannia. That has been the floating home to His Royal Highness Prince Charles for the past couple of days. He is the senior British representative here at Hong Kong's handover. He and the Governor will depart on that vessel shortly after midnight. Still, there's plenty to do before that. Now, I told you there were 10,000 people here, but you know the audience is going to be a lot wider than that. Beside me, we have quite a few American networks, rather well-known cable news network. We know that the BBC is sending this show live to 26 countries. That's an estimated target audience of about 126 million. Let's just focus a little bit here on the Royal Hong Kong Police doing their thing. I'll take you through the programme. It's supposed to start with some drummers coming on, and they'll come on for about 3 minutes. Then there'll be the royal procession, and they will be going here to the enclosure that you can see, Prince Charles and the rest of them. Then after that, the civilian part of the show begins in earnest. We'll have the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra, the Chinese orchestra. We'll have at least 100 drummers. We'll have a children's show. We'll even have a bit of opera for you, a musical interlude. It will also be your last chance to hear the final speech by the Governor, Chris Patten, as the 28th and final Governor. It's going to be one of his shortest ones on record, though. It's only due to last 3 minutes. And I can tell you, as somebody who's covered the Governor fairly consistently over the past 5 years, they don't come much shorter than that. After that, there will be a military pageant. Now, that's going to be the massed bands of the Royal Air Force, the Navy and the Army. That's really the heart and soul of the show. After that, there will be the traditional flag lowering at sunset. This show has been timed especially to stop at least to have the flags lowering at that time, the sunset parade as it will be known. There will also be the royal address. Prince Charles will address the crowd only for about 5 minutes or so. Then there will be one great big grand finale with everybody. There's about 2,000 people involved in the civilian part of the show, about 450 in the military part of the show. We'll have all that. Then Prince Charles will leave along with the Governor and everybody else. They'll make their way to the extension of the Convention and Exhibition Centre. Plenty left. There's the banquet and, of course, the midnight ceremony. Well, it's chucking down here, but there's still every sign that the programme is going to go ahead as scheduled. Now, it is, despite the weather, still a very proud, emotional and historic moment for the British. This event is co-hosted, co-organised by the British garrison. There's been 156 years of British colonial rule, and that time has been interlinked very much with the military. It was the Royal Navy which first landed on Hong Kong Island in 1841, claiming it for Britain. It was a Royal Navy task force that came back in 1945 after the war. We'll take a look now, though, at what's been happening in recent times. There's been a withdrawal, the drawdown, thousands of troops leaving. We'll see how all those issues have been resolved and how Britain's armed forces have prepared for departure. With typical pomp and ceremony, Britain's Navy says goodbye to Hong Kong with the closure of its shore base, HMS Tamar. It's an emotional occasion for all concerned.
And when that white ensign came down, I had to take a couple of sniffs, I must admit, and wipe away a tear. It was very, very, very emotional for me.
With Britain's last major colony folding, these rituals became a familiar routine. Britain's Hong Kong garrison was the oldest surviving one after Gibraltar, and a plum posting.
It's always had something of mysterious air. It's always been somewhere that people wanted to serve, and people who served there have been envied by those who haven't been able to be.
The military's history has been intertwined with Hong Kong's. It was the Navy which first took Hong Kong Island for Britain, landing at Possession Point in 1841. The British garrison was driven out during the war, but returned triumphantly in 1945.
For the British forces, too, this was a day of special rejoicing. Once again, the Navy, the Army and the Air Force were on parade in the city from which they'd been absent for so long. At their march past, the salute was taken by Admiral Harcourt, the Commander-in-Chief. The double 10th of 1945 marks the beginning of new prosperity for a great city.
With the emergence of communist China, the garrison was strengthened.
Troops of Mao Zedong marched into Shanghai unopposed. Within weeks, they were at the gates of Hong Kong. Troops went out from Britain to reinforce the garrison. Hong Kong was determined to stay British.
You had the revolution, the civil war going on the mainland through all this time. Just across the border, battles being fought, refugees going everywhere. And the British Army was here, and the Navy and the Air Force. You had 30-odd thousand here then. And they were, again, effectively insulating Hong Kong from all these terrible problems.
The war games continued, but in recent times, Britain's soldiers acted less as protectors and more as a backup to the civilian services. In 1992, the police took over border patrol duties. It was a far cry from the early days, when the army built roads, organised relief work and dealt with most security matters.
Then there was quite a deliberate policy over 2 decades, effectively, of creating a self-sufficiency in Hong Kong so that it was able to take care, ultimately, of its own boundaries, to deal with illegal immigration, to deal with smuggling, to deal with disasters, search and rescue, certainly internal security with a very strong and capable police force.
The days of British Hong Kong were always numbered, and with them those of the military. A defence lands agreement between Britain and China, signed in 1994, parcelled off all the military sites. 25 go to the government, 14 are to be used by the People's Liberation Army. It's a deal which brought things full circle. Hong Kong taxpayers footed 65% of the yearly costs of the garrison, about $1 billion per annum in recent years. The value of the sites returned to the Hong Kong government in the past 3 years tops $90 billion. In 1994, the drawdown began in earnest. In that year alone, the number of troops diminished from 9,500 to little more than 3,000. There was nothing to do except pack up. Everything from trucks to mess tins have been flogged over the past few years. Even the RAF's trusty Wessex helicopters were sold to Uruguay. 28 Squadron, determined to leave in style, staged a rare fly-past, ending a link stretching back 45 years.
Pilots don't often get the chance to fly in a final formation, and to close down the squadron in the Far East, the very last Far East squadron, is indeed an honour.
And the 3 patrol ships designed especially for Hong Kong waters also have a new home. They've been bought by the Philippines. The troops have been leaving one by one. Hong Kong has been a unique garrison, tri-service and tri-national. That means there were Army, Navy and Air Force units comprising British, Hong Kong Chinese and Nepalese personnel. None were prouder than the Gurkhas. These fighting men from the foothills of the Himalayas had served in Hong Kong since 1948. Because of defence cuts, some troops are being made redundant. Locally enlisted personnel have been given help in finding new jobs in Civvy Street. In the past few months, the giant removals job stepped up a gear.
We don't want anything left behind. I wouldn't mind betting there's the odd soldier, though, who probably decides he's had enough. I don't know. No. There won't be anything left behind. We'll make sure of that.
Most of the troops' families left in March. Shipping everything out of Hong Kong has been a big undertaking.
I think it's not necessarily large if you compare it to moves such as Bosnia or the Gulf, but I think, one, because it's very much in the spotlight, another because it's against a finite time scale, and there is very much one chance, a single shot to get it right. You know, there's no second opportunity. And I think it's that makes it unique and, you know, is the challenge, apart from the size of it.
Lee Doherty will be the last man out. 2 planes full of military personnel will fly out of Kai Tak at 11:30 tonight and about 3 o'clock on the morning of July the 1st. Lee's job includes making the final check.
It is. It's a terrific honour and something that, you know, I'll be able to look on in years to come, I'm sure, in a very positive light.
By the way.
I think there's quite a bit of stick flying around, as you can well imagine.
The Black Watch is the last British regiment to serve in Hong Kong. The pipes and drums of its 1st Battalion are part of this evening's sunset parade and will be there at the midnight ceremony. For the Scottish Regiment, it follows a proud tradition. The 2nd Battalion was on hand during India's independence.
Every battalion wants to be places which is a part of a historical event and a place in an interesting time. So we're very lucky to be here. We were in Karachi in 1948. It's sort of by chance almost that we're here, but we're not complaining. We're delighted to be here.
Members of the Black Watch are proud, but not overawed.
Being a piper, a drummer or a musician in the military, you play at quite a lot of events. OK, this one's maybe historical, but it's actually no different from any other parade that we've had before. So, I mean, I think it's the occasion its actual handover is going to make it more special, and probably the guys in parade will probably put more panache.
Right! Yes! The Black Watch and the many regiments which have gone before them were the visible expression of British sovereignty over the years. As they prepared to march into Hong Kong's history, it's a time for reflection.
We have done what we needed to do in military terms. We've also shown courtesy, professionalism, moderation, and a determination to do things in a way which benefits the local community, benefits the people of Hong Kong.
And as Hong Kong's new garrison prepares to do its duty, Britain's last military chief here offers a view of the territory's future.
I'm optimistic, not because I don't think there may be some political difficulties which may need some time to readjust, to find their point of balance, and so on and so forth. I think that's all very understandable. I'm optimistic, though, because of the underlying energy and dynamism of the place, which I think will carry on whilst these other issues are sorted out above them. I think they're very important that they are sorted out for international confidence. But I think overall I believe in the Hong Kong people, and I hope they will also work their magic on the PLA and come halfway to meet them.
But now the descendants of those who carved a piece of empire half a world away are heading for their final sunset.
If you've just joined us, we'll be crossing over live soon to East Timor for the British official farewell ceremony. But first, another story. 4,000 British Imperial troops were killed or wounded when the Japanese invaded Hong Kong in 1941. Not all of those soldiers were British. The tally included Hong Kong Chinese, Indians, Canadians and Portuguese. These servicemen and women gave their lives in the defense of Hong Kong. And as we enter a new era, some hope this chapter of Hong Kong history will not be forgotten.
At that time in Hong Kong, there was the Royal Scots. They arrived here in 1936.
A lesson in Hong Kong military history for these British soldiers gathered in the Shing Mun Country Park. This is one of the last of the British Army's battlefield tours, a trip around Hong Kong's wartime sites. It often takes a hike, but many of the territory's old defences are still accessible. This trip takes us to the Shinmun Redoubt, built to repel Japanese invaders. It was left woefully undermanned. When the attack finally came in December 1941, the British Imperial forces were taken by surprise.
You've got to remember that the Royal Scots have been fed a lot of information, seeing that the Japanese never attack at night, is short-sighted.
Hidden high in the hills, Gin Drinkers Line, 11 miles of tunnels, bunkers and pillboxes, built in the 1930s as a first line of defence. Long decade, they still clearly bear the names of London streets, names carved by British soldiers a long way from home.
And the whole idea of the tunnels was originally to have a division of about 10 battalions stationed up there to hold it for about 3 weeks while they waited for reserves, extra forces to come up from Singapore. In the end, when the Japanese invaded, they were not expecting an attack from the Japanese from China. They were expecting an attack from the Japanese, as they did in Malaya, from the sea. And we were not prepared. At that time, the Royal Scots were sent there of about 700 men. And they had to try and defend a position of roughly 3 to 4 to 5 miles of about 35 men to every 1,000 metres, which was basically physically impossible.
The British may be leaving Hong Kong, but their wartime history remains. Some want to see it preserved for future generations.
That's why I think, in a way, it would be a good thing if there was some form of interest in battlefield tours in Hong Kong. I think there's a spot for them, even if it's educational purposes for school children, students. Because I'm sure that, in general, a lot of Hong Kong people, which has been shown by the way they buy memorabilia, colonial memorabilia, there is an interest in the British past in Hong Kong.
And the fall was one of its darkest chapters. Britain had left behind a tiny garrison. Hong Kong was overrun in 18 days. British military historians say the troops never had a chance.
It was quite a small garrison, and it was not expected, Hong Kong was not expected to be able to defend itself for very long. But it did remarkably well in the circumstances. You have to remember that it was a world war, and Japan entered the war, and the day it entered the war, it invaded Hong Kong on day one.
1,500 soldiers, British, Canadian, Chinese, Indian and Portuguese, were killed. The occupation saw hundreds beaten and tortured by the Japanese forces. Soldiers and civilians were interned in camps, deprived of food and water. The liberation, when it came, was 4 years later, in 1945. The dead are remembered in places like these. Saiwan War Cemetery carries the remains of 4,000 people, many killed during the fighting and occupation of Hong Kong.
So it's a unique cemetery. There's very few...
Jack Edwards, a former prisoner of war in the Far East, has spent years campaigning for the rights of ex-servicemen and their dependents. He knows the names of many of those buried here. Some he fought alongside, some are lost to history.
His name is nameless, but as it says on the bottom, see, known unto God, right? So he is known only unto God, but he's known to us now because we bothered to stand by his grave. So
with Hong Kong reverting to Chinese rule, the man who chairs the Royal British Legion's Hong Kong and China branch hopes Beijing will continue to allow Remembrance Day parades to go ahead. That would mean allowing veterans from Britain and allied nations to raise their national flags on the cenotaph in Central.
just for one day. But every other day, it could be the Chinese flag in the middle, as I hope it will be, hoisted with reverence and lowered at sunset, as the British have done, and the Bohemia flag to the right. Then everybody in Hong Kong will be able to look at that cenotaph every morning and understand what it is.
For Jack and other veterans, the politics of today should not be a hindrance to remembering the past.
We always said in action and during the war, the bullet has got no political party, and the bullet doesn't know your religion. It doesn't matter. You're gone, you're gone. And that's why we got this wonderful comradeship, those of us who served in the war, not only with those of us of our own race and religion, but all races and religions, because we're all fighting for one cause.
A look down memory lane on this very historic day, and the VIP should be arriving at Tamar to join the 10,000 guests for the British farewell ceremony, and we'll bring you all the festivities after this break.
A dreadful day is when you come across a decapitated hanger, the suspicious absence of the broom, a drenched bathroom with Willie in captivity, your leopard-skinned kid prancing in the living room.
Your little breath. I guess that means no TV for us.
Pearl saves the day.
Watching TV is a family thing.
A touch of elegance at the Great China Tower, Shenzhen.
因为有你，世间变得好动情。因为
精彩。康佳电子。
必須要習慣，再難習慣，還是要奮勇的支撐，讓我支撐這一晚，淡退痛苦的循環。
Relief of pain and fever miseries. Fortalin, of course.
The Basic Law is a constitutional document for the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. It lays down the foundation for our future way of life, including the rights and duties of Hong Kong people, our socio-economic development, political structure, the judicial system, and other areas. It concerns everyone in Hong Kong. To learn more about this important document, visit the Civic Education Resource Centre or any district office.
In case you've just joined us, the British farewell ceremony is about to begin at East Tamar, and Derek Johnson is standing by there. Derek?
Hello, Diana. How are you?
Fine.
Yes, by my watch, I think we've just got 2 or 3 minutes left until the show is supposed to start. It's still pouring down with rain, but we did have the police band out here a little bit earlier warming things up. There's every indication that it's business as usual despite the rain. The Union Jack and the Hong Kong flag are hoisted. There is, I think, a capacity crowd here of about 10,000. Maybe we can just pan over here and have a look. You should be able to see at some point during the parade ground. I think that's some things they've put up for the very beginning of the show. It's supposed to start at 13 minutes past 6 with a dragon dance. There's a royal enclosure over there in which most of the VIP guests, except for 2 or 3, including Prince Charles, already are. Everybody here has been given an umbrella. Look at that. Here we are. The dragon dancers are coming on. That signals the start of Britain's farewell ceremony. I think rather than me going on, we can just go over live now. Enjoy it. It should be a terrific show.
After the dragon dance, there will be a 21-gun salute. Actually, the salute will cue the dragon to stop dancing. As we had a glimpse earlier, Chief Secretary Anson Chan had made it back from Kai Tak Airport, where she was welcoming Chinese leaders to Hong Kong. And the VIPs here at East Tamar, the British delegation is led by Prince Charles, and there will also be Prime Minister Tony Blair, Foreign Secretary Robin Cook, Minister of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs Derek Fatchett, and Governor Chris Patten. It was never anticipated that the Chinese government would send representatives to this event. There'll be over 1 hour of pomp and pageantry, which will officially mark the end of British rule in Hong Kong. After the 21-gun salute, there will be a performance called The Spirit of Hong Kong with the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra and the Chinese Orchestra. And there's Lavender Patton and Foreign Secretary. 21-gun salute. The arrival of Governor Chris Patten. Governor Chris Patten arriving at East Tamar for the British farewell ceremony. Welcoming him is a 21-gun salute. A solemn affair befitting the occasion. After the 21-gun salute, 21 trumpets will soon be heard. Prince Charles with Governor Chris Patten. British Prime Minister Tony Blair, Chris Patten, Prince Charles. This drums roll heralds the performance of The Spirit of Hong Kong. There are Chris Patten's daughters behind him. Exit the dragon, and in comes the music performers for The Spirit of Hong Kong. You see those lumps in the middle of the arena? Those are rocks, and they are supposed to represent the land of Hong Kong. They symbolize the coastline to which ships and junks brought people and trade to Hong Kong. Prince Charles, Governor Patten, VIPs waiting for the beginning of The Spirit of Hong Kong. The Spirit of Hong Kong will tell of the dynamic harbour life that Hong Kong grew into the modern, multifaceted and prosperous society it is today. This drum roll will herald the performance of The Spirit of Hong Kong. These drummers come from 6 groups. Some are students of Mr. Yim Hock Man, some from the Hong Kong Music Lover Chinese Orchestra, the Hong Kong International School, the Island Sun Drum, the Music Office, and the Wang Wang Chinese Orchestra. After the drummers, the Hong Kong Chinese Orchestra will play. These are the water sleeve dancers. The blue silk represents the sea, the lifeblood of Hong Kong. The sea feeds into Hong Kong Harbour, serving as a gateway through which international trade can thrive. Providing the music is the Hong Kong Chinese Orchestra, directed by Yan Hui Chung. Silk dancers representing the sea, dancing around the rocks which represent the land of Hong Kong. Cast of dancers come from the Academy of Performing Arts, the Charpio School of Ballet, and Christine Liao School of Ballet. Also joining in this performance are people from the Chinese YMCA Secondary School, Island School, King George V School, Sha Tin College, St. Stephen's College, the Girl Guides, West Island School, Chan Chu Kui Memorial School. After this performance of junks and water sleeve dances, there will be a performance of Tai Chi. Tai Chi has been arranged by the SKH Diocesan Welfare Council. And providing the music is the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra. Tai Chi is the most noble of martial arts and represents the deep cultural and spiritual roots of Hong Kong. This is to show that despite Hong Kong's cosmopolitan persona, its ancient traditions still survive and thrive. These parades represent horse racing in Hong Kong, certainly one of the most popular pastimes. Education, learning and scholarship highly valued in Hong Kong. Horse racing here. This represents trade and industry. Hong Kong is a major retail center. Textiles, fashion, electronics, jewelry. There's business and finance. Of course, Hong Kong is one of the world's, actually it's the 7th largest financial center in the world now. This pageantry is obviously designed to acquaint the many foreigners who will be tuning in now about Hong Kong. This parade also symbolizes law and the judiciary of Hong Kong, that the rule of law is highly valued by all members of society here. Credit cards. The music provided by the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra, directed by Maestro David Atherton. People hurrying to work, I presume? Hong Kong, the financial center. After this performance, we will hear from the children's choir. The cast for this parade, the children come from the Chinese YMCA Secondary School, the Chan Shu Kiu Memorial School, Island School, King George V School, New Territories and Juveniles Association Limited, Leung Shing Tuck Primary School, Sha Tin College, Sha Tin Junior College, St. Stephen's College, the Hong Kong Girl Guides Association, and the West Island School. And this is the symbol of law and justice in Hong Kong. And we're live at East Tamar for the British farewell ceremony after 156 years of colonial rule. This is part of a performance named The Spirit of Hong Kong. The blue silk represents the sea, the harbor. Governor Tony Blair, Prince Charles. And after the civilian parade, there will be the military pageant, and the Guards of Honor come from the Royal Navy, made up of members of the ship's company HMS Chatham and HMS Illustrious. From the Army Guard of Honor is formed by the 1st Battalion, the Black Watch, Royal Highland Regiment. And from the Royal Air Force, the Queen's Colour Squadron. There will be 5 military bands playing in this farewell ceremony. The bands will be directed by Lieutenant Colonel David Price. And
this
here are...
is a day for saying farewell.
But it's also a day of celebration.
Celebration of the spirit of Hong Kong.
A a day to rejoice in friendships made.
And a day to look forward in hope and expectation.
A huddle of islands and inlets where the mountains of China embrace the sea. Hong Kong has been a place of meeting and a place of refuge.
Here merchants and teachers, architects and artisans have built one of the world's greatest cities.
Here, East and West have joined together in free and peaceful partnership.
We are gathered now in this place, between the mountains and the sea, with the eyes of the world upon us, and standing all about us, great buildings that declare Hong Kong's vigor and achievement.
As we think of the wonders of this city, let us welcome those for whom it is held in trust, the children who will inherit what has been built, whose hopes and dreams and talents will chart new courses, create new wonders. 環顧今日香港非常輝煌嘅成就，有賴上一代耕耘呢一代嘅努力，寄望亦都深信下一代會用佢哋嘅才華同埋幹勁，使香港再創新猷。而家歡迎香港未來嘅主人翁，我哋嘅兒童。
That was Brian Blessed and Francis Yip, who will be the official MCs for this occasion. Now we go to the children's choir.
Children
was the Hong Kong Children's Choir, and now we'll take a break.
Contrasts of wealth, of language, and of culture. Here the world's most crowded streets thrive beside quiet, green hills.
This is a city where contrast creates excitement. Here, East has met West in a spirit of adventure. Variety of viewpoint and knowledge has enlivened old truths, sparked new ideas.
Different peoples have worked hard together to build their lives here. But amid all their labors, time has been found for music and leisure. Canto pop and Western rock have pulsed with the rhythm of the city.
While the melodies of China and Europe, the songs of every land, have enlivened our festivities, dignified our celebrations, given rest and reflection amid the rumble of life. 各行各業喺香港工作之際不忘娛樂，各種音樂都有機會喺香港流行起嚟，而且中外名曲更加點綴我哋各式嘅慶典，令到我哋緊張嘅生活平添怡情同埋休憩。